Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes and is not intended as financial advice. It's Wednesday. Let's take a look at some alts. We had quite the splash down and up here on BTC and on alts. BTC recovering on the MSTR potential QQQ inclusion news, which we will know definitively by the end of the day, Friday. But Bloomberg believes that they will be included in the QQQ. So the market certainly liked that. The markets liked the CPI number. That was bang on the money for expectations at 2.7. And next week, we've got the Fed meeting where they are likely to bring rates back down another 25 basis points. So for dominance on high time frames, it still looks okay. It looks weaker than it has. It dipped into the cloud there and had a violent move down. I think for alts, do we think the higher market cap names, the Ripples, the Ethereums, the Solanas, do we think they will continue to outperform? Because that's what's going to be needed to push dominance further, lower. It's certainly at the bottom of any channel you would draw and or out of the channel you would draw. And again, like who really cares about dominance? The altcoiners don't. They've been trading alts since 2021 and beyond. Right? What do they care? The Bitcoin maxis don't care. They're focused on BTC. But this certainly does hint at early signs of BTC dominance waning. Something to consider, again, relative to BTC. Do we think alts can outperform if Sailor's buying BTC in the QQQ? Do we think alts can outperform that? They certainly can. They certainly can. Doesn't mean they will, but they certainly can, right? So dominance, the picture overall is certainly less bullish than it has been for the past couple of years. It's just still fairly bullish. It's not officially bearish yet. But again, who's this for? Who really cares about this? Let's be honest. If you've traded Solana or Sui or any of these other coins on the USD pairs, I think you're doing just fine. But broadly, we still favor Bitcoin based on Bitcoin dominance. This is total 2, and it's tapped or near all-time highs at this point, 1.5 trillion. Stablecoins also continue to print, mainly Tether. There was an interesting announcement today with Binance working with Circle and USDC after BUSD was forcibly closed a couple months ago at this point, maybe a year ago at this point. And everything's sort of trying to converge on getting this regulatory moat for USDC. And I don't see Tether complying with an eventual stablecoin bill. And that's going to push them out of the United States. And then there's going to be this yin yang between, hey, Tether's buying a bunch of our treasuries, but we don't want them in the United States. It's going to be very interesting how that actually ends up working out. But what's hard here on just total 2 and even alts broadly, how much more do you expect? We just had a violent move higher. We had a violent move slightly lower, a little mean reversion action. Can we see Ripple to 4? Can we see Solana to 400? Can we see ETH to 5,000? Whatever it is, right? Certainly all possible. And that's what it's going to take to continue to push total 2 higher. Total 2 stripping out stables against Bitcoin, similar to dominance. This is the most bullish this has looked in years. Similar to 2022, there's a chance that this thing can give you a little fake out action. But if I had to guess, alts will try to do their best in the first half of 2025. That would make sense with regulatory tailwinds, repricing DeFi, repricing all the alts that have been beaten down because they've been regulated to death in the United States. So if you're trying to craft a narrative around the technicals, that's something that's certainly possible. And on trend, you're almost there on the high time frame cloud. One thing that's interesting is if you look at the highly speculative ETFs, UFO is another good one as a proxy, but this is ARK. ARK has made new multi-year highs repeatedly here. Kind of along with altcoins, it is moving higher. And this is what you want to see. You want to see, if you're bullish alts, you want to see absolute speculative mania, right? Alt season, aka alt season, to push those prices higher. It's good to see things like GME up, anything in ARK, right? Doing very well. So it's not just one coin or one sector. It is the ecosystem. It's probably the macro environment. It is rates coming down. It's the cost of capital coming down. It's global money printing continuing. It's China, right? It's Canada. It's whoever, New York State giving stimmies to people. That's what's going to push alts higher. That's what's going to push things like ARK higher. And on the technicals, it has looked good for a little while now. once it finally got out of the weekly cloud. On watches and NFTs, watches we talk about just because I think it's the same type of person that I've noticed who trades both watches and NFTs. Watches have not bottomed yet. So it's interesting that NFTs have. Not that they have to be completely correlated, but by the looks of it, the watch stuff has not bottomed. But NFTs, on the other hand, certainly looks like they've bottomed. Here's CryptoPunks past couple of years, just sort of in this holding pattern for a long time. Now, it hasn't taken out the March 2024 high, but if ETH gets back on the horse and gets bullish again, you could imagine a scenario where ETH beta, DeFi, right? The question is, how much beta do you want in your portfolio? How much leverage do you want in your portfolio? Portfolio, if I can speak today. Some people just assume that, they want to go out on, instead of page 1 of CoinMarketCap, they want to go to page 500 because that's where they're going to get the most bang for their buck. And then they put leverage on top of that, right? And then it's just, who knows what you're going to get for volatility. That's fine, but that probably has a reduced percentage in a real long-term portfolio relative to everything else. But NFTs definitely on the riskier end of the risk curve. And just as a sentiment gauge, this is what you want to see, right? You want to see ARK moving. You want to see Total 2 moving. You want to see NFTs moving. Here's CryptoPunks. That was, this is Pudgy Penguins. Also, again, they look good. They're 3x from mid-November. Bored Apes, for whatever reason, have not done as well and are pulling back. But I think collectively, NFTs are doing quite well. And that's good for alts. It's good to see money sloshing around in the ecosystem. That's what you want at the end of the day. Before we go any further here, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is the complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience, the one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with a link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Ventures, Inc., PVI, DBA, Kraken. On the old BTC, I believe this is the first time in U.S. session that we have maintained this $100,000 price. The first $100,000 pop was during Asian session, and we sold off. And we've pretty much sold off every US session anytime we've gotten near 100K. So it's a very, very good sign if we can get up here and hold this, especially with ETFs on board and whoever else buying BTC during US session. As far as the 4-hour technicals, it's kind of all over the place, right? We had this Adam and Eve possibility, tried to break down, didn't, had some good news. Now we're back above the cloud. Just kind of a general mess. You can maybe just say this is a giant channel. There's a lot of like guesswork here because I don't think anything is super, super clean. Maybe this is a channel. Maybe it's a breakout. I don't really see anything in particular, but for alts specifically, it's good that BTC is bullish again. BTC either mildly bullish or ranging is great for alts. BTC obviously bearish, terrible for alts. As you saw yesterday, BTC was down like 5%, alts were down 15 to 25%, right? So when the tide goes out for BTC, alts get punished the most. So we've had a very strong recovery. Things look great. I just don't have any super great ideas up here from a technical perspective other than the trend is still bullish, very bullish, still sort of sitting there in overbought territory. If we look at RSI reset, again, I don't have like a lot of great things to say here. It just kind of is what it is. We still do have this potential mean reversion to 83. Definitely not a short, just a be careful should we start to break down. And if we want to pop on the Williams fractals, the Williams fractals since the breakout have done exactly what you'd want them to do in that they have kept you in this trade really no matter what. Okay, so I'm just looking at these little triangles here. The current trailing stop loss is all the way up at 94.2 or whatever that is. And that's exactly what you want to see from a market. You want to see a set it and forget it trend mentality. So the current level that we wouldn't want to break is that 94 level. And then it's just sort of a smorgasbord of where do we go from there? Where's the mean reversion? But that would be the first time we've tripped any trailing stop loss since the initial breakout, which was based on the cloud. It was at 60.6 in September. And then obviously the election, things took off. So Bitcoin looks fine as long as it can hold 94, which looks reasonable here, but you never know. Plus or minus 10% on any given day for crypto. For alts, it's tough. Again, you look at this chart, it's done very well. It has held the $2 level and it looks okay. The issue is still here. This particular coin is up 300% in a month. Okay. So from a relative value perspective, would we rather trade this or something else? This is just personal preference. The laggards have no guarantee of ever catching up to the leaders, but it may be easier for other things to move around relative to something like Ripple or HBAR or Algo, Doge, anything that's up as much as these other coins are up. But it looks fine. Trend looks fine. This probably has tripped so it tripped, well, I guess not. So the only trailing stop loss fractal here for Ripple since the breakout is 217. How this works with the fractals is you need a candle close below that level to get you out of the trade. We did not have that yet. Previous 2 days were both above that level. So far so good with Ripple. And even on the 4-hour, if you wanted to trade this on the cloud, it looks like you might get a bullish TK recross. You might get some sort of inverted head and shoulders fractal, to be determined, but that's what I'd be watching for if I was trading Ripple. ETH 4K, clearly the level of importance here. We had talked about this yesterday on the position sizing video. Looking at the current low, you wouldn't want anything below 3,500. And this is a realistic possibility, as outlandish as 5K ETH might sound. That is the measured move of the depth of the current high to the September lows. On the 4-hour, there's also this possibility that this thing morphs into some sort of head and shoulders. So it's kind of still wait and see on ETH on low time frames. But on high time frames, I think this looks great. Even if this pulls back, you just have to choose your battles. I can't answer this for everybody. Not financial advice. Do you want to add on the Kijun? Do you want to stop yourself out at 3,500? Do you want to just keep adding down to 3,000? Depends on what you want to do. But ETH certainly looks set up well here. And one of my favorite charts is ETH BTC, because this thing has been down only for years. And if we go to the 3-day, this tells you all you need to know. It's still down 50% from late 2022. From a relative value perspective, from a trading perspective, I like that this is attempting to make a bottom. It's attempting to make an inverted head and shoulders. It's attempting to get into the cloud with a bullish TK cross. And that makes a lot of sense from a relative value perspective. So as a trade into the first half of the year, I do like this pair to potentially 0.5. Definitely something I'm taking particular interest in at this level. Looking at Sol, it's been a mess and a half. It did actually tap the daily Kijun level there, the mean reversion level. It's bounced since then. It's in this downward channel. It was in a head and shoulders falling wedge battle. It's been all over the 4-hour cloud. It just hasn't traded clean in either direction, even though it's just continuously drifting down. I think a lot of that has been the pump.fund stuff, which has that protocol selling the fees that they're getting on Kraken. But maybe this breaks up as a falling wedge. I don't know. I just think there's easier trades out there right now than Solana, but it looks fine. It bounced where it needed to, and that could be it for the time being. Sol BTC and Sol ETH, another pair of charts worth thinking about and considering, just because on high time frames, we still have this possibility where Sol sort of goes berserk into 008 land or something, 01 land. It's not at the breakout level yet. It needs to hold the current low. There's no trigger on this trade, but it is a breakout trade to think about for the entirety of 2025, because the time to trade this is at 0027. It's not at 0038 or 0045 from a technical perspective. If the train is leaving the station at 0027, you want to be there. So I like alerts at that level and kind of ignoring this chart. Otherwise, Sol ETH is another one that has pulled back considerably, and it's kind of just chopping around. I don't see a massive reason to hold Sol over ETH here just yet. One reason to hold Sol over ETH would be that Sol BTC chart, or if the ETH BTC pair broke down. But here, I don't really see any discernible difference between Solar ETH necessarily, just on trend. It's basically been flat for a good long while. Moving on to Doge, also pulled back a little bit, not really enough to reach the daily Kijun, and this is where it makes it difficult. You know, do we look at the daily and say this could still give a 25% pullback, or do we pay attention to the 4-hour, some lower time frame, and still hope that this eventually plays out as an ascending triangle? Again, personal preference. Doge tends to follow BTC. LTC follows BTC historically. Doge usually leads the meme coins as well. So definitely want to pay attention to if you're trading all of those. Pepe broke out of this inverted head and shoulders, broke down, still holding above the neckline. It looks fine. You know, again, I don't think there's like great setups out there. Trend-wise, it looks okay. It did briefly hit an all-time high there. I just don't know what you do with it here. I liked it last week because of the consolidation, the chart pattern. Here, I'm not really sure because it did hit the level you'd expect it to hit, 26K to 29K sats or whatever that is. Sorry, cents, picocents, microcents, whatever metric that is. It did hit that level. So now what? You know, I don't have any great ideas here for that one. Cardano, kind of more of the same. It is kind of turbo chop on the 4-hour. You can see the potential setup of an eventual head and shoulders here you got to watch out for into 2025. So I don't know what you do with this here. You know, if you're still holding it, fine. I don't think there's any issues, but you definitely have to be mindful of this bearish reversal if you care, right? If you're like, you know what, 2025, it's going to be bullish for everything. I could care less where this goes. That's fine. Downside risk is 70 cents, 60 cents. And on low time frames, I'd be watching the cloud for breakouts there. SUI, strong rebounds here. Rebounds after breaking down. And if we check the 12-hour, it looks okay. You know, there's clearly some sort of diagonal channel here, kind of on its own drum, beating to the rally of its own drum, just doing its thing. I think the eventual cup and handle target was 570 to 10, 5 to 10 reasonably, based on this cup and handle idea. So once again, all this is personal preference. Do you want to sit in ETH hoping for outperformance? Do you want to have some of this, have some of that? Totally up to the individual. Link on the 12-hour did retest the Kijun there, but you know, what is this here? I don't know. I don't have like some grand scheme here where maybe this is a cup and handle eventually. I don't know. I think maybe as far as you can take it is as long as BTC remains bullish, alts will remain bullish, and you just go from there down the line. DOT, same deal, kind of looks like Cardano. It's got a head and shoulders risk down the line, but what do you do with it here? I don't know. Right now it's just in the chop. LTC, the exact same deal. Pulled all the way back to the daily Kijun. It's just in the chop. Maybe this pauses and keeps going from here. I don't know. I don't have anything super deep on most of these charts at this point. Curve looks okay, but again, you've got head and shoulders risk that if you're bullish, you want to see this above the recent high 120, which would be pretty easy to do, but it's had quite the run, right? It's up 300% in a month. What more do you want from charts that look like this is the question. You know, do you want to put capital at risk, hoping for another 50%, 100%, 150%, or would you rather sit in something else? Personal preference. AVAX likely the same story. Looks like all the other layer ones pulled back in the chop, maybe an eventual cup and handle here into 2025. So I think for the most part, you've got great bounces across the board. You've got alts rallying on BTC strength. And as long as BTC doesn't look weak, which it would be below 95, below 94, then alts should generally do okay. I would just be careful with alts that are already up 300% in a month and expecting something anytime super soon versus planning for Q1 2025 or the first half of 2025. But all in all, this has been a great bounce across the board. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Happy trading.